Check, check. Check, check. How's it going? I'm in the home stretch of this film score that I'm working on right now. This is let's see, I'm like 8 weeks into this score that I've been working on. It's a science fiction romantic comedy, sci-fi rom-com, as we say in the film scoring business. And basically, at this point, well, the music's done. I've composed the music, I've recorded the music, I've mixed the music, and I've met with the director many times, gone through revisions and approvals with all of this. So it's been a process, and I'm doing this whole process as I'm working. I'm working in my DAW, which in this case I was bouncing between two different DAWs to score the film. I was working mostly in Digital Performer, which is one of many DAWs I like to use in scoring a film. And I was also doing some cues in Ableton Live that were specific cues that had a specific kind of sound and vibe to them that was like more pop music driven. And I felt it was like really the way forward on a certain sound was to work in a different environment creatively that was freer and kind of more about groove. So that was the whole process of composing everything. There are, let's see, how many cues are there in this movie? Of course, you keep a list of every piece of music going, and as the list gets revised sometimes depending on if these meetings with the director change what's going on. So this is the spotting notes of the whole film. This is a concise list they call a master cue list of every piece of music. 29 different pieces of music in the film. Each piece of music we call a cue. So 29 different cues. And, there's a name for each cue and a cue ID for each cue. And then there's the time code address where the cue lives inside the movie itself and the length of the cue. So altogether, this feature length sci-fi rom-com has about 40 minutes of music in it altogether when you add it all up together. And each of those cues is now fully mixed and is a complete wave file. It's mixed down to a single stereo wave file. In this case, I'm delivering stereo files. And so those cues are each individual separate files. So that puts us in a position now that we're thinking about, well, how do we deliver the thing? How do you get to the point where you have 29 different separately recorded cues, and how do you hand that over to the dub stage, or the final mix where they combine music with sound effects and dialogue to make a complete soundtrack? How do you hand that off? And that varies depending on the production and who you're handing it off to and what they want, and a lot of other important technical factors. In this case, I'm actually assembling all the music together into a single file for them. And they will have one big file, a DAW session, DAW session, actually in Pro Tools. They'll have one that contains all of the music assembled in the right order with the right space in between each cue, and each cue at the correct address within that one big Pro Tools file. That's the music part of it. And they'll have a separate file that is all of the dialogue, and a third file that is all of the sound effects. And so then from there, depending on their workflow, they may combine all those into a big single document, or they may synchronize them together on separate computers and just hit play, and they all chase along, and they mix to a final mix from that, probably in like a surround sound format or something. So this is a Pro Tools document that I have open here, and this is just getting started. I can sort of give you a little tour of what's going on over here. There's you can see there's 3 tracks. Well, there's actually a video track up at the top there. And that's so I can just kind of spot check things and see if they're in sync while it plays along. And I also have, a video window if I want to watch the thing while it's playing. So that's happening there. But I don't actually, for this process, don't really need to do a lot working with video, because I know where the files go based on this list that we were just looking at. I have an address for each separate sound file as it gets imported here into Pro Tools. And the way I've recorded these files, for the most part, for about 90% of them, they have their timecode address embedded in them. They're WAV files that you can embed a timecode address as you record it, as you mix it. It can have it in there. So it's actually not a fussy process to get this thing built and get everything in the right location within this Pro Tools file. For most of the files, the software will do the heavy lifting for me, and I'm just kind of doing an organizational and spot checking task of putting it in the right place. So a little bit more about the structure of the Pro Tools session here. So you can see that the audio tracks, there's 1, 2, 3 audio tracks. The track with yellow clips in it, the red one, the green one. And I call these MXA, which is music A, MXB, music B, and then MXC, music C. There's 3 different tracks of audio because sometimes you have cues overlapping. So I don't know if we have an example of this yet. I've only thrown in a few of these, but you can imagine, in fact, I'll just drag one so that it is overlapping. If I take this first cue and put it here, it does happen that one piece of music can be trailing off while another one starts. They can overlap, especially in film music. That's a common kind of transition. So having 2 tracks for music makes that possible. And having a third track has a special function in this case, where you see these clips that are in green over here. The third track is where I put cues that are just known as source cues. We call them source cues, and that's strictly what I put in there. Source cues are cues that within the scene in the movie that you're watching, that this music comes from a source in the scene. Now that's opposed to music that's that kind of mood background, or what we call underscoring music, that sort of movie music that makes a mood or whatever. And there's a key difference, that movie music, that mood music, characters in the movie don't hear that. The audience hears it, but characters in the movie don't know there's an orchestra or violins or something playing in that moment. But source music, they do hear. And I put that all together in the bottom track here, all that source music. It could be like music playing on the radio, or music from a commercial on TV or whatever. All that source music lives in one track so that it can be EQ'd differently and mixed at a different volume and panned around into the scene so that it really sounds as if it's coming out of a speaker or something somewhere right there in the world of the movie, and sounds different. So that's just a long way of explaining why I have a third track, even apart from these first two tracks. And you can see right now that like I already have a few cues in there that I've started to put in there just before I came online here. So what does this process look like? Well, I'm here in Pro Tools. I also have a big folder full of everything I've done up here, right up here. These are just WAV files I recorded in other DAWs during the 8 weeks that I've been scoring this whole film. And you know, for the most part, with a lot of these, I'm just going to drag them in and let Pro Tools do the heavy lifting. Well, look over here. If you can see the top left corner of the Pro Tools, there's this thing. Let me click around in it so you can kind of see it. Hopefully you can get a look at this. It's the mode of Pro Tools that I'm switching now by clicking on a key command. And there's 4 different modes: shuffle mode, slip mode, spot mode, grid mode. Spot mode is specifically for this kind of work where you have an audio file and it needs to live at a particular place in the Pro Tools timeline. And it will just get things to where it needs to be. All right, let's get an example going. Okay, so I have a cue. The next cue I'm going to spot is called 1M10 Back to the Roof. And I have it here. So let me drag it into Pro Tools and let go of it. And Pro Tools pops up this dialog box right away. It's a spot dialog. And I have a user timestamp programmed into this cue right here. The address says 1/23/02/1554. I can click on that button and it enters it up here in the field that says start. And now that's going to be the start address of this cue. When I hit OK, Pro Tools will move it into the correct spot. So it looks like it's popped up. Let's see if we can get this to show up right here. 1M10 Back to the Roof. And that's the address where it's supposed to live. I actually would like to move this down so that it's not on the same track as the previous one. I like to alternate which track things are on. So let me do that right now. There we go. And if I wanted to like quick check with video and see how this is lining up, so that's the right scene for this piece of music. And everything is in the right place. I think I could check that, but let me check. Sometimes, because of an edit in the picture or something might need to be checked. 1M10 Back to the Roof. 22:53:16 is where the music is supposed to start. Let's go to that address. 53:16. Huh, that looks different than where it starts. That's interesting. Yeah, it's the wrong place for some reason. Old version of the song, maybe? Maybe not the most current version. Could check over here, back in my list of stuff, and see if there's a later version after version 2. There's version 1, there's version 2. Now that looks like the most... Oh, here's one. It's actually even more recent. Huh, misnamed. Let's fix this. Let's see if we can sort this out. Make this right in here. Let's delete this one we just brought in. No, it's not that one. It's this one. I think. What am I doing? They're on the roof. Oh, no. I'm confusing. These two have the similar name. They're on the Roof, version 2, does appear to be the most recent. Back to the Roof is an entirely different cue. So this one, that looks like it's going to the wrong place. Well, we should track this down. We should see what the issue is. Let's see if my time code's in sync. This time code number on the screen here on the movie screen, 213605, does match this one, 213605. So my video is in sync, and this file's not going to the right place. So why could that have happened? Somehow it got the wrong time code burned into it, embedded in it. And I could imagine that happening because the cues that I created in Ableton Live don't automatically have that. It takes some manual work to get those time code in there. And the ones I do in Digital Performer automatically do it and accurately, and they're goof-proof. This one, I think probably I just put it in the wrong place. I put the wrong time code in it when I made it. So I'm glad I checked it. What can I do to fix it? Well, I can manually spot it to the right place. Let's see if, yeah, let's do this. So the time we want it to start at, no, that's a different one. Oh, that is the wrong one. Oh, wow. That's in the right place. I guess I've confused myself because these two have the same title. This one is not. Starts late. So, okay. I'm kind of going around in circles because distracted myself. Then there maybe is a more recent one. Back to the Roof. Huh. Who knows? Yeah, version 2 is there. That's an older one, that's an older one. So this could be the right one. Just spotting it the wrong place. So let's manually spot it in the right place. See what it takes for us to do this. Going around in circles a little bit with myself. So sound comes in there. Let's trim that down. And then we'll have an easy way to start it right at the first modulation of sound. And we'll put it in spot mode. And let's check that timing. This is for they're back on the roof. Back to the roof. 22:53:16 should be the right place. Let's see if that works. (22:53:16). See if I got that right. It looks right. Huh, doesn't look right. I got more than one problem going on. I think I have a problem that, like, this record's also out of date. So I may go to manually spotting it next. 22:53:16. Yeah, that's not right. Okay. I know where it's supposed to start. I know it because I know it. I know the movie. So sometimes we just have to go this route. She kind of looks up, and that's where the music should come in. Yeah, it's when she's looking up, this real estate agent, and we transition to the outside. So let's try this. Let's slide this to about here. A little earlier even. Yeah. Well, that was an interesting turn of events. I guess I should always expect more of that to come in a process that has, like 30 some odd cues going. A lot of things can happen. What's up, John Ong? Good to see you. I hope you're keeping busy right now in the midst of a weird time for the world. Right now, hard to keep busy sometimes. No lie about that. So if you just popped in, I'm in the final stages of assembling this score for a sci-fi rom-com by a director named Michael Tierno. We've been working remotely. I haven't left my studio here in the whole process of doing this. I mean, literally, except to like get groceries or whatever sometimes. It's about all I've done. Let's put some more of this together. Let's see how this can go. What's the next cue we need? We need one M11. Don't remember if this is one that has a timestamp in it or not. So we're going to find out in a second. Let's just see. Does have a timestamp in it. Time code. Let's click that. Let's check and see if this one looks like it's in the right place, since we had a weird issue on the last cue. Yeah, this is right. We're supposed to have the idea these two might fall in love. They have chemistry. All right. Let's keep going. 1M12, The Void. Let's bring this in here. See if this looks like it's in the right spot here. Yeah. There's a scene where they go into another world. The reason why I have not been playing the dialogue as I'm checking these, well, I don't need to, for one thing. And it's probably better that I be listening to these music mixes and checking them. I know these scenes really well. I've been looking at them for 8 weeks. But also, this work print that I'm working with today, it's the most recent Conform. And there's a problem with it, which is that they have some of the previous versions of music in it and temp music and stuff still in this work print, and so I don't have the dialogue separate from it, and I don't want to be hearing that confusing things. So I've been just checking these things just with picture alone, which is totally fine. At this stage, it's really the best thing for me to be doing. Okay, let's keep going. We're about not quite halfway through the movie, by the way. Here's a cue called Don't Be Afraid. Let's make sure I have the most recent one. Yeah, this is it here. You wind up with a lot of versions of stuff because there's a kind of a creative bouncing back and forth that happens between a composer and a director. You try an idea, it gives them an idea, you revise it, etc. really cool thing happened at the end of this cue. And I hope I don't ever have to revise it because it was an accident and I don't think I can recreate it. But something happened with one of the effects processors or something that made it sound like a kind of a glitch from tape. Like when you have tape and there's inconsistencies in the pitch, like you hear something kind of warble a little or whatever. Right near the end of this cue, something happened. I don't know if it was like a setting on the DAW or actually something really going wrong, but I don't know how I did it. I don't think I can make it happen again. Let me see if I can find it for you and play it for you. Earlier than that. Right there. I'll play that for you again. It's that weird like warble of pitch, and it really works in the scene and for the cue. It's something that actually I thought like, oh, if I could figure out how I did that, I'd put it in some more cues. And I'm sure I could figure out a way to do it, but you know, it's one of those like happy kind of accidents that occurs. Let's do another cue. So that was 1M13. Don't be afraid. 1M14, let's get some food. Let's see how this works out here. Oh, it's weird. That'll work. There we go. Let me check the start of this again. Huh. That one might be late too. It seems like everything that came in from Ableton Live has a weird start time. Well, not everything. I'll have to check these out. It's very interesting. I might have had something out of sync somewhere in this process. They might be out by the same amount. Let me check this cue sheet. See if I can make some sense of this. Let's go get some food. 353604. 3536. Oh, 5604. Huh. What? I mean, this is a case of me typing in the wrong thing somewhere, but I don't know where. There's so many ways I could type it in wrong in so many places. Wow. 355604 is what it says there, but that can't be right. And this is, oh no. No, that is what it says there. That's what it says there. So why? What's the weird business? Huh. Maybe that's what I did on purpose. Let's check by the end of the cue. Sometimes it's easier to tell at the end if you're in sync. I think it's late. I really think that's late. Something's going on. I wonder how I caused this to happen. The way that I got, in any of the cues that I did in Ableton Live, the way that I actually got those timestamps in there was, it actually involved Digital Performer, and I wonder if somehow in this multi-step process, I've done myself a disservice. In any case, even if I had never done that, I'd have to manually spot these particular cues. So that's not too much of a problem, since it's just a few of them. And it'd be fine if it was the whole film. I mean, sometimes that's what people do, is they manually spot all of it. Let me put this a little earlier, right on that cut. There's like a sort of a wipe cut edit. Could go a little later than that. He says, let's get some food. These two just had sex, and then he comes out. Let's see. It's probably where it belongs. is across that wipe edit. Not a cue that I originally thought I'd be scoring. It's a dialogue cue. I don't know. I think we overscored the movie a little bit, but the director and I kind of went back and forth on some of these decisions. And they may decide at the dub after I've delivered this thing, oh, let's take this out. I think we ultimately wound up erring on the side of easier to make too much music and take some out. That's just how we went with it this time. I think we were unsure. It's a unique movie. It has like a ton of dialogue. It's really two kinds of genre. It's it's like a romantic comedy and a sci-fi at the same time. So probably a lot of what I was just doing now, you couldn't see my screen. I just realized that a second ago, but it's back now, and I will keep an eye on it. So let's keep going. Let's get some more music, and we'll hear this thing come together as we go, sort of a journey through the movie. That was 1M14. 1M15 doesn't exist yet in this movie. There's a demo, but we're not putting it in. 1M16, version 2 is right here. Let's put this in here. It has a good time code on it. Romantic scene, obviously. This is our main character, Jane here. She's a cyborg, but she doesn't know it. So is this other guy. Actually, there's only one human being in the movie. Okay, that's worked out good. You notice I'm not really doing any mixing at this stage, like in terms of levels between the cues, because I'm delivering it so that they can do that. And they're going to do it in the context of having the real dialogue and sound effects. So there's really no reason for me to change it now. When I'm mixing music for a film, I keep things very normal here in the studio anyways. Like, my listening levels are always the same. I'm always in the same monitors. I don't ride the volume up and down while I'm trying to do a mix because it really actually can fake you out on a lot of things. It's usually just a way of correcting problems that should be corrected in some other way, either musically, orchestrationally, performance-wise, mix-wise, frequency, response-wise. So I actually don't touch my volume ever in the whole process. Like when I'm composing, I don't touch it. When I'm mixing the music, I don't touch it. And when I'm assembling a build like this, I don't touch it. I just try to let everything else make it sound right. Because you really don't want to get to any point in the game where, like at the dub stage, or even when someone's watching a movie, where they're like needing to turn it up and down because to compensate for the turning up and down that you did. That's something best avoided. So my approach is to leave it alone. And I'm careful with that. And what you find is that, like, as we're playing through these, they all sound about right. They're not all as loud as each other because they're different kinds of music with different instrumentation. So there is some variation. It's dynamic. But none of it's way too loud. None of it's too soft. And it's not all the same. And it shouldn't be, really. All right. That was 1M16. 1M17. Follows shortly thereafter. Let's get this in here. Similar kind of cue. Kind of a love scene between these two. That worked out. Let's keep going. When I'm 18, why are we glitching? This is another one that has one of the user time codes that I put in. So this could be problematic. Let's see if this one works out though. No, it's late. I think. Maybe I'll know by the end. Nah, it's right. I think it's in the right place. Who knows? There's some kind of a mystery going on about some of these ones I did myself, so they all really need to be checked carefully as I go along and deliver this thing. It's just par for the course. I mean, you have to check everything. It winds up going to, another studio somewhere else, and you might not be there to make sure everything's cool. And, things could slip by people, or you confuse them, and it costs them a lot of time. It's not good. So everything that goes out of the studio has to be checked 9 million times. Well, maybe not 9 million. When I'm 19, Back to the Void. The most recent version. I have 2 different version 2s in this list. I'm really my own worst enemy. Gotta go on dates. Let's see. Yeah, there's one September 17th, Back to the Void version 2. Sheesh. What a naming nightmare. I mean, it's easy when I'm working alone to let things get disorganized. And it's unfortunate. I want to keep writing music, and I only can stop once in a while to make sure I'm still organized about it. This isn't the right place. These two are in another dimension, falling in love. Sort of. But that one has a kind of an evil agenda, the one in the background, Lisa 600. They're both cyborgs. Okay, that cue is working for me. Sometimes I'm really happy when I come back to this stage and I can kind of really see it, like, out of the bubble of composing it and see it all together. And, like, right now I felt that way watching that cue. I actually felt like, oh, that's good. Sometimes you have the other reaction, but... All right, this is when I'm 20. A little farther down the road here. Similar cue. Let's check the ending of it. This film has a lot of bass in the music, like low synths. It's mostly synths. Uh, Very few real instruments, like a piano basically, playing one note at a time. Very synthetic. I programmed all the synths myself in Massive and FM8 mostly. All right, let's look at a really fun cue. 1M21, Kissing Air. I know this is going to be spotted in the wrong place because this is one I made in Ableton Live. But let's see what happens with it. Let's see if we can get it in the right place. It's in the right place. This is one of the cues I did in Ableton Live, and it has that like a pop groove to it, funk thing, hip hop influence. Just the kind of thing I want to work like freely with groove a lot and program those myself. The drum parts and stuff, it's like you want to work in a software that's kind of geared for that sort of thing. And like I use this Ableton Push 2 to like play those drum parts. I don't like using loops. I like to like play stuff and groove in a way. So that's really a reason why I'm kind of bouncing around in different DAWs throughout this whole project. Let's keep going. Do we have 1M22? Thanks for saving me. Yes, we do. Let's put this in here. Well, we're about 2/3 of the way through this thing. Let's blast right through it. Let's see what the whole screen looks like when we're done. 23, Antibody. Here it is. That's, I think, in the right place. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's like a little action scene that ensues here. A little bit. Kind of some energy to it. These two are getting chased by some kind of a virus thing. It's intelligent. Or an antivirus. And the scene shifts to a more emotional one. Transitions. Okay, I trust that that's in the right spot. Let's keep going. Let's see here. That's Not True is the next one. What's the most recent version? Version 2. Let's get this in here. should overlap. It does. In fact, there's supposed to be a little fade between these two. Let's see if we can do this fade thing right now while we're here. You can see they have an overlap, and musically they're not supposed to blend together like one piece of music exactly. They're supposed to sound like they're overlapping. Two different ideas overlapped. And this one that's outgoing has to fade out from there. So let's throw in a fade. See how this works. More gradual, I think. Let's try taking this out a little longer. And this one we can actually sort of fade it in a little to get a more gradual effect out of this. Just a little fade, I think. Now it sounds like it's kind of not starting naturally. Let's take that fade off there and just make the outgoing fade start later. Should be a little clashy, a little dissonant. This is one of those cases where it's like, it's the perfect thing that they overlap, and even all these three cues, if you look, they overlap. That's one of the reasons why we have more than one music track for delivery, so that we can have this kind of a thing happening here. It makes like one big blanket of music in some way, which you need. Sometimes it's like they are three different pieces of music in terms of how you composed them. And that they have like different tempos and different instruments and things going on in there, but that there doesn't need to be a break dramatically. It needs to be continuous dramatically because the story's shifting through those musical experiences as we go. Let's keep going. 1M25. Most recent version is version 3. You see how many times I rewrite a cue around here? It could be frustrating in some cases, but actually we've made a lot of progress with this, and the director has had awesome feedback and ideas about what to do with these. Let me see if this one's in the right place here. Yeah, it's in the right place. Lisa 600, the cyborg, is going to kill this innocent bystander. So now Jane, she's been observing all this remotely through some kind of technology, and she decides she's got to head over to where these two lovebirds are and intervene. So that's what's coming next. This cue should have been longer, feels like. Feels like it should still be trailing out here. Huh. I wonder if I changed something or that's not the most recent version. It's weird. Let's see. See if we can get to the bottom of that. Version 3. I'm in love with him. Version 1, 2, 3. I don't see another one. It's weird. It ends later than I remembered. Thought it kind of went on till where she stands up. But everything else looked like it was in sync. I guess that's where I put it. I wonder if my notes say anything useful. Let's look at the spotting notes. I'm in love with him. See the description. Music out over a full shot of Jane leaving the lot. See, I thought that went later, but I guess I changed it at some point. 1:13:12. What? These numbers can't be right. 2:01:13:12. What? No. What is happening? These numbers have got to be wrong. Man, how do I even function? Yeah, see, I had that in all my paperwork. It's like later in the scene when she's leaving that this music's supposed to end. That's interesting. That's something else I got to check. I think it's fine. It looks right, but it's like, it makes me worried that I screwed something else. I'm going to screwed something up and I'm going to send it out the door with problems in it. Or that I'm sending out not the most recent version, which is really troublesome. I would actually archive the older versions in a different situation, but our particular workflow has had us a lot in this film in the situation where we're going back a version. Like, we'll try an idea and then we'll go back to an earlier version. And so I've been hesitant to discard anything or archive anything out of the way at this stage. So I don't know. It is getting to cause a problem now. Maybe now's the time to organizationally, like, take a night to boil it down to what we're actually really using and double check the endings, like what I'm doing now with you. Probably be wise at this stage to be doing that. And there's another thing we can do with this. Oh no, it's good. It's good where it is. I was going to put it on a different track, but I see it's on a good track. So let's keep going. That was 1M25. Big turning point in the movie. 1M26. Version 2 is the most recent version. Let's go into spot mode. That's the right spot. You can tell, like, that low stuff kicks in when they make eye contact with each other. There's a moment here where she contemplates killing the guy on the couch. She changes her mind there. Okay, let's keep going. That's 26. What's up with 27? Does it exist? Past revealed. There definitely is something written for this. I don't see it in this list. Was it misnumbered? Oof. Did I not export it? Did I misname it? Oh, past revealed. It has the wrong number on it. Let's see what's the date on that it was made. Huh. I think there's a more recent version than August 31st. Wonder what's up with this. We renumbered when we added some cues in. So a bunch of stuff changed order. That must be the most recent version up there. Past revealed. 1M23 past revealed. Well, let's find out. Let's just find out. Yeah. I have to check and make sure it's not an early version of that. It feels a little different. Wonder if I made a version of this and like misplaced it or something. Man, I could get into trouble with this kind of level of organizational problems. Okay. Let's keep going. I remember I already spotted this, I think. Oh no, that's a different version of it for the end title. So it gets used in the end credits, but this is actually, the one coming up is the last one. This is it here. Let's put this here. Overlaps. There's like a end title version of the same tune. Boy, that tune just listening to that, that really sounded to me, in hearing that, it kind of sounded like the piano was overmixed, like the melody was coming out too much, which I'm not happy about. I may return to that actually and take a look and see if that needs to be slightly brought down, that piano track. It's the first time I noticed it now because I'm kind of out of the context of working inside the DAW, and sometimes you do become aware of things in a different way. There's another end title credit music. I don't know if I have it in here yet, so I'm going to look. I guess it's going to be listed as also as 1M29. 1M29, I remember. That's not it. Yeah, not in here yet. I have it edited from another thing in another place, so that's not going in yet anyway, so not important. So let's have a look at what we just accomplished here. Roughly, this is, I mean, obviously there's a couple things I need to check myself. But let's clean up a little bit here and see what this thing actually looks like. This whole timeline here, we can collapse this video track a little to kind of get a better perspective on what we're actually really looking at. Let's zoom out. So there's about 29 or 30 cues here, spread out over this timeline of a movie that's over an hour long. Like a big checkerboard. That looks right. That's what a music build or MX build, that's what it's supposed to look like, what you deliver. Everything in one file for them. And there, of course, are other options. There are times where you deliver these individual files and they put it together. There's times where a music editor is involved, and the bigger the production, that's more likely the case. I mean, ideally, that's always the case. I'd rather be taking this time to compose music, fine-tune these things. But it's nice to have a chance to kind of catch a few mistakes that I made along the way, too, at this final step. It's sort of a last inspection period, too. Let me show you one other thing. If you're new to this, you've heard about it, but right here at the beginning of this project, you see these music regions that are right here, this like very short files that look like a line going across all three tracks right here. That's the sync pop, or some people call it the two pop when it's the one at the beginning. It's a beep. It's pretty loud. Hold your ears. Check this out. I'll play it. It's not in the movie, obviously. It's just before the movie, and it's a way that you can take audio tracks and synchronize them to picture tracks. And there's a lot of audio tracks. Remember that there's a file like this for all the dialogue, and there's a file like this for the music here, and there's a file like this for all the sound effects, and there might be multiples. There's some sound effects. Might be multiple files for each one, and so there needs to be a way to line them all up together rather than guessing or eyeballing it or fudging it. So if we look at our video track right here, you'll see that there's the Academy leader, the countdown from 10 to 2. Here comes the 2 pop at 2. And then here comes the show. So the number 2, I'll not play that again and blast your ears out. I'll just advance to it. The number 2 is 2 seconds away from the actual start of the movie. So this is a very clear representation of that visually. And one can line up their audio and picture and know down to frame accuracy that 2 pop there in the track is lined up with the 2 in the picture. So that's when you hear about a 2 pop or a sync pop, that's what that's about. Lining it up with the video copy. So, and everyone's doing that. Every person in the sound team is doing that, so that you know you'll never have to fudge it. Everything will be lined up. All the music will be in the right place. All the dialogue will be in the right place. No questions, no guessing. All right. I'm sure you've seen more than enough of this right now. There's a music build. And I really appreciate you hanging out while I did this. It's fun to do this with other people around. It's nice. If you subscribe, you'll see I do these all the time. There's some other ones in there, and there's some how-to videos on my channel that you might want to have a look at. So hang around, stick around, subscribe if you want to see some more of this stuff, and I'll be here. I'll see you around.